Hello, this is Mr. Abbott back. This is Learning Guide 4 still. This is Pre-Calculus 12 at Francis Kelsey School, and it's still with logarithmic functions. This is the last part, log equations now. All right, topic 4. Okay, logarithmic and exponential equations. There are three types of log equations or exponential equations you're going to run into with this learning guide. First one, you're going to get a log with a log and a log. So there's logs throughout the whole equation. So here's an example. Log 2 plus log x subtract 4 equals log 4. So you can notice that there is a log, and a log. All right, so that's one example. The next one is log and a log, and there's a number over on this side. So here's example, log with a log, and there's a number over here, okay? Now, I just put a plus in here. It could be a plus or a minus in these situations, so they don't always have to be plus. And the last type you're going to see is this exponential, okay, where we have 2 to the power of x plus 1 and 7 raised to the power of 2x subtract 3. Now, if the bases are the same, you know how to do that. That's Learning Guide 3 work. But if you look at this, base 2 and base 7. So the bases are different. So we're going to use logs to solve this one. Okay, let's go through some examples. Okay, example 1. We have to solve, which means we're solving for x here. And we have a log, and a log. Okay, so these are the steps we're going to do. The first thing you want to do is single log the left-hand side. So this left-hand side of the equation, we want to take the two logs and make them into a single log. All right, so what we do there is we take, there's a plus here, right? So remember, when you have a plus, you're going to take these arguments, the 2 and the x, subtract 4 and multiply. So I'm going to go log, all right, and the base is 10, so we just leave that off. We have one argument's 2, and because there's a plus sign, we're going to multiply, because that's what the laws tell us. We learned last time. X subtract 4. Okay? And it equals the log on the other side, which is log 4. Okay, now, the purpose of this is once we have them into single logs, see there's a log there and a log there, we get to cancel out. So now I just cancel this log out with this log. So they get canceled out. Okay. So now I rainbow, because it's just a straightforward, easy grade 9 question. Rainbow, rainbow. So we get 2x subtract 8. And over here, we just have the 4 waiting. Okay, and now we're going to move this 8 over. So we just get 2x equals 12. And we divide by 2. And we divide by 2. So x equals 6. Okay. Now we always have to check for restrictions. All right, very, very important. So the restrictions will come from the argument. So there's no x in this argument, so don't have to worry about it, but there's an x in this argument. So when you're doing restrictions, I should have done the restrictions from the beginning, because some people get mixed up. When do you take restrictions? Well, restrictions are always from the question, the beginning. So if we have a restriction now, okay, restriction. All right. So what we're going to do now is take this argument, x subtract 4, and basically you're going to make it greater than 0. All right, and then all we're going to do is move this over. So x is greater than 4. So what this tells us is when you have a restriction that this answer over here, this answer, has to be greater than 4. And because 6 is greater than 4, we give the check mark. Good. It's a solution. All right. So I want you guys to try these ones and remember your laws. So I'll pause it, or you guys can pause it, and you can check your answers with my answers. Okay. Now we have a log, log, and log. So I'm going to do my restriction before I forget. Okay, restriction. Okay, the restriction. Okay, I have an argument here with an x in it. No x, no x. So this is the only one I'm going to be looking at. So I have x subtract 2 greater than 0. So x has got to be greater than 2. Okay, so we keep that in mind. Okay, so there's my restriction. Now we're going to solve. Now we have to make sure that our solution is greater than 2. Okay, so let's make this into a single log. So we're going to go log of base 5 of the argument x subtract 2, and it's divided by, because there is a subtraction sign right here. Okay, see that subtraction sign. Okay, 3 equals log base 5 of 2. Okay, now when we have the single log there, we can cross out and we can cross out. Okay, that's why we do this side single log. Okay, now we're left with this. Well, to solve this, we're just going to go x minus 2 over 3 equals 2. Now, because there's a fraction over here, I'm going to make this into a fraction. So that's easy. To make 2 into a fraction, it's 2 over 1. Now I'm going to cross multiply to get rid of fractions. So I take this 1 and multiply by that. So that is x minus 2. And then I take this 3 and multiply up there, so it's 6. Then I move that 2 over, and I have x equals 8. Okay, and I know 8 is greater than 2, so I'm happy. So check mark. Okay, B. So let's make this into a single log. Let's do a restriction first. Forgot about that. So our restriction here is, there's the argument, and there's the argument. There are 2 arguments with an x. So here, you're going to get the idea. You're just taking the opposite of that. So it's x greater than 1. And this is x greater than 0. Okay. Now when you have 2 restrictions, we have to remember this rule. The greatest number rules. So you have to say to yourself, which number is greater, 1 or 0? So greatest number rules. Okay, so if you look at these questions, we know that 1 is greater than 0. So this one is scratched out because 1 is greater. So there's my restriction right here. Okay, now we can solve. Okay, let's single log this. So log. Now the argument, it's got a plus sign between them, so we multiply the x by the x minus 1. A very good bracket there, so make the bracket a bit better. And it equals log 12, waiting on the other side. All right, now we can cross out. So that's why we do single logs on each side. Now we rainbow in, so we get x squared minus x equals 12. Okay, now you notice that we have an x squared involved, where the previous questions we didn't have an x squared. So when there's an x squared, you're going to be thinking about quadratics and factoring. So watch, I'm going to bring this over. So it's x squared minus x minus 12 equals 0. All right. Now going back to our grade 10 days, we're going to go and factor this quadratic. So two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 1, well, we know it's 4 and 3. And it has to be negative 4 because we're trying to get a negative 1 there. All right. And remember, this equals 0. So the roots, or the answers, are going to be 4 there because the opposite, and negative 3. Okay, now we have two answers. We got to check the restriction. So we know that the answer's got to be greater than 1. So make sure that you X out negative 3, because negative 3 is not greater than 1. And you tell me that's called a rejection. It's rejected. Okay, and so it's rejected. Okay, it's rejected because it doesn't fit our restriction that we did at the beginning. So the only answer that you're going to put in the answer box is 4. All right, so let's move.